following on from the 13.4 million over 4 years for sexual exploitation that you were just talking about for children living in resi care, how much of that has been allocated for this year?
The 13.4 million was an allocation that provided for the ongoing appointment of the sexual exploitation practice leads, which I was just talking about. And the actual breakdown, which is in the targeting child sexual exploitation budget line item, and so it's 2.6 in 23-24, 3.6 in 24-25, 3.6 in 25-26 and 3.6 in 26-27, so $13.4 million over 4 years, which obviously goes to those programs that we were just speaking about, the ensuring that we have the sexual exploitation practice happening right across the state, both in our, across all divisions, and also in the after hours service as well, that it's rural and regional, which I'm sure is important to your community as well, Ms Benham, but making sure that we have that statewide 24/7 coverage that ensures that we're working to disrupt the behaviour when it's actually happening.
Great, thank you. Last year, the CCYP revealed that in just 1 year, 160 incidents were reported involving 85 children in residential care being victims of child prostitution and sexual exploitation, including some as young as 11. The last quarterly incident reporting data, Q3, 1st of Jan to the 31st of March 2025, showed there were 291 incidents reported of abuse for children in out-of-home care, predominantly residential care. How many of those abuse incidents reported were for sexual abuse?
Improving the monitoring of child sexual exploitation is something that we have committed to. As I said, it was our government that set up the sexual exploitation practice leads, and it's our government that is also improving the monitoring so that we can better understand this abhorrent behaviour and make sure that we're working to disrupt it. So the Victorian Government is also working to better record and track incidences of child sexual exploitation.
So do you know how many incidents?
Pardon?
Do you know how many of those incidents were sexual abuse?
What I'm explaining to you is that we're ensuring that we're putting in place a system. So on the 22nd of March 2025, we put in place an enhancement to the CRIS system, which was activated, designed to strengthen child sexual exploitation information and intelligence holdings within the system so that we can enhance the visibility of persons exploiting children, and also changes that have also targeted the communication of the specific intelligence to Victoria Police. So it's been developed in consultation with Victoria Police, and the Secretary and I have had a number of conversations with Victoria Police about how these system changes, and system changes also at Victoria Police, will help in relation to how we can implement these responses,
so
aligning with the recommendations.
So do we know the numbers? Do we know how many children and how many incidents with sexual abuse, or is that something you can provide?
The data is, you just quoted the quarterly data, so the data is publicly available, but what I'm also speaking to is, like, I think what you're trying to get at, it's really important that we better understand... No,
Minister, what I'm trying to get at, I'm just trying to uncover how many children reported in these incidents that keep increasing, how many children were sexually abused in residential care.
So the data is publicly available, and you've just quoted to me from the data, but what I'm also explaining to you is that we would like to also, I guess, further understand more deeply some of what that data means in terms of how we can then work to disrupt this behaviour. And so we have made changes to our system, and we are working with Victoria Police to ensure that our systems work better together, so that we can use these updates to complement the extensive work that is also then being undertaken by people like the Department's Office of Professional Practice and others to work to disrupt this kind of behaviour.
So the actual numbers and the breakdown of those numbers are available publicly? They're in the public domain?
You've just quoted from the publicly available.
Yeah, but I'm looking for specific numbers for those incidents and the breakdown of how many of those incidents were sexual abuse and how many children it involved.
Well, as I was just explaining to you, we are further enhancing our system.
So you don't know?
I'll ask the Secretary if she'd like to explain it to you, perhaps in a different way.
Just need some numbers.
Yeah, so I would reference the CCYP annual report. So we're required under the Act for all our SIMS reports. So SIMS reports are where we get a notification of an incident, and then there's a requirement for providers to do an investigation. We provide all of those to the CCYP. They review those and they publish in their annual report, I'm just looking at it now, more detail which includes sexual abuse, sexual exploitation. So that's in their annual report.
Can you just give me the numbers?
It's publicly available in the annual
No, I
report.
haven't got the annual report.
Well,
in front of
then
me.
you can, it's a publicly available document.
The breakdown of sexual abuse isn't publicly available.
The CCYP annual report is an available document that you'll be able to look at those numbers.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the 23-24 sexual abuse was 342, sexual exploitation was 190.
So what about the first quarter of this year?
I don't have the detailed breakdown by quarter. What I do have is what was the annual figure from 23-24.
What we're actually after is the quarterly breakdown for this year.
So-
Is that available?
I don't have it here with me, but I'm happy to take that away and see what we can.
Great, thank you very much. The CCYP's inquiry out of sight, tabled in 2021, examined what happens when children in residential care, the state's care, go missing. It found that many efforts previously in place to protect children from sexual exploitation and abuse had ceased. Why did they cease, Minister?
Well, I'll go back to my opening remarks in relation to our investments and the work that we have done in disrupting sexual exploitation amongst children in care, and also those whom are not in care. Our government has, in 2015, has put in place sexual exploitation practice leads. In previous budget, we have extended those to 13 right across the state. The work that is happening now in terms of both coverage across the whole state, coverage in outside of business hours, on weekends, at night, rural and regional coverage as well, is far more extensive than anything that happened under any previous government. Our investments of $13.4 million and our work to disrupt the sexual exploitation of children in residential care is constantly growing. I've met myself with each of the new sexual exploitation practice workers as a group, and I've met with many of them individually out there in community and spoken with them about the capacity to do this work in disrupting sexual exploitation of children in care, as has the Secretary and as are our community service partners as well. This work is extensive, it's difficult, and I again commend our frontline workers who are working to disrupt this abhorrent behaviour. Children who live in our child protection system are complex, and many of them have complex needs, but the work of these frontline workers to ensure that we can keep them safe and away from predators like this is ever growing, as our presentation and my earlier remarks have gone to, and our work in terms of disrupting sexual exploitation it has expanded significantly over the course of this government.
I agree that the frontline workers are under incredible pressure in this system, and they are trying to do the best they can. But with the shockingly high numbers of sexual abuse of children and young people in residential care continuing, why is there not more funding in this budget to address this government failure and a broken system?
There's funding in this budget across 4 years. There's an investment of $13.4 million across 4 years.
$3.6 million a year.
It is a complementary effort to the rest of the child protection system, which I won't have you run down in this context because they work frontline of every...
I'm asking why there's not more money.
Of each and every child protection worker, and then the very particular work of the sexual exploitation practice leaders, their teams, the work that they do with Victoria Police to try to disrupt this abhorrent behaviour. It's not a single investment, it's a part of a complex system working to keep children safe, and it is work that is ongoing, it is work that is supported, it is work that has grown, and it is work that far exceeds anything of any previous government.
Do you not agree that $3.6 million per year over the next 3 years is a drop in the ocean when it comes to protecting children?